the other thing too, all right, that they talk about in the book, let's go up here to Sally's Seashells, is not only how you can, modify some of your selections and moving things around, but also how you can duplicate them. Go ahead and make that selection, and you can use the Elliptical Marquee tool again. So we went ahead and now, instead of just holding Option, right, which doesn't constrain anything, if this is a perfect circle, we can go ahead and hold down the Shift key and Option, and we can draw it out. And you can see we're not perfectly centered because it's not lining up with that other line. So you can see where we're kind of off a little bit. So if I want to come in and I want to start maybe here, we're going to start from the center, or as close as we can get. That looks pretty darn good. So what I'm doing, once again, is I clicked and then I held down Option or Alt and then the Shift key all at the same time as I started to drag out. And then now I'm going to let go of my mouse first and then my Alt and Shift keys, okay, or Option key and Shift key. And so now I've got a circular selection, and what I can do, according to the book, would be to take the Move tool and just drag it over. But again, that's going to cut the pixels out. Let's just say that we want to make a copy of it. So we're going to say Copy. Oh, and again, I did it again. Look, select the background, okay? That's how easy, I want to show you, that is how easy it is to constantly forget what layer you're on. Alright, so sometimes it doesn't matter like that. It doesn't matter because it's going to tell you, hey, you haven't selected pixels, but sometimes you're going to be doing things to layers that you're not intending to do. You got to remember, if something doesn't seem to be working, a lot of times it's one of two or three things. One is that you have a current selection made somewhere and you forgot that it's selected and you're trying to apply a change somewhere outside of the selection. Well, just remember you might have something selected. The other thing is that if you have the wrong layer selected and you're trying to apply a change to a different layer. Those are really common things whenever it seems like something's not taking effect. And then there's another one that we'll get to later when we start talking about file types. Okay, so while I have that background selected, again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to go ahead and paste it. Again, your book tells you to do it differently, but I think this is a better way because it's non-destructive. And now I can move that new layer, and it tells you to bring it over here somewhere in this vicinity, and I'm going to name my layer Seashell. Let's call it Sally. Okay. And what I can do also, if you wanted to do the little thing that the book tells you, is you can go up to Image and you can go to Adjustments and you can tell it to invert the color and it'll turn it to be blue. Just a little extra trick that they threw in there. Okay, and then the other thing that you can do is if you wanted to have this thing selected, you could also go ahead and make a duplicate within the same layer. What that means is I need to actually select this again. So we're going to go back in here and try to get another good selection. And my selection's a little bit off, so I'm going to kind of approximate it and use my nudge tool so that I can get it about where I think that selection should be. Okay, so I've nudged it to where I think it ought to be, and now what I can do is duplicate this within the same layer. So far what I've been doing is I've been making layer copies, but if I want to make something that is a duplicate in the same layer, I can hold down the Control or Command key, and that looks like it's going to cut it. Then I hold down Option, and now I can click, once I've got this little black and white double arrow, now I can click and drag, and let's say that we want to put it here. And I've just made a duplicate, and you see that it's in the same layer. And let's say that I want to make this larger. Then what we can do is we can go up to Edit, and we can go to Transform, and choose to scale it. And you can see here, if I click now and I hold this corner, I need to hold the Shift key down so that I can strain the proportion so that it's a perfect circle still. and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and then to commit to that change, I just hit the Enter key, and it still keeps my selection. And so now, if I want to do that again, I could do that. I can also, while this is still select, I can nudge it around or something like that, or I can just move it so that it's kind of on, overlapping the seashell a little bit more. Now if I hold down Control Option again and click and drag, or on a Mac it would be Command Option, and let's say that we put it here, and again I can go and scale it again if I want. Let's hold down the Shift key, we'll make it even larger. And okay, so now if I were to deselect at this point, I've got this one layer called Sally, and if I take my Move tool, the whole thing moves as a unit, you see. Okay, so now I can't really change the overlapping of these because I was duplicating the selections within the same layer, so now they're overlapping each other and there aren't pixels underneath these other pixels. Whenever it comes to these circles, they're just all one shape in the layer of Sally. Whereas if while I have Sally's layer and I click and I drag this, you see it dives underneath my creature layer, because layers will do that. They'll dive underneath each other. Okay, they have a stacking order. Alright, so that'll conclude this basic demonstration on how to use the marquee and move tools, and we're going to move on to the next one.